I'm Phil with Alpha Bowhunting, and this is our new show, To the Point.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We're back here. Same shirt as I was on the last topic.
Me too.
Because this is one take, and we're multi-recording. We're stockpiling segments here, and I'm not embarrassed to say it.
We're
right?
binge recording right now. Instead of binge watching, we're binge recording.
If you're good to go be out in the woods 3, 4, or 5 days without a shower, you're okay to watch us without 2 or 3 seconds with the same clothes on. So last couple segments, we talked about hunting instinct. And we started talking about some of our experiences, failures, things that went well.
Yep.
I asked you the question about if you changed something, and you had really focused on your bow setup, or you changed your sleep system.
I did.
Tell us about your sleep system, Bo.
I did. So years prior, I always ran straight up sleeping bag, pad combination. Talked to a couple good friends over there at Kafaru, Frank being one of them. Shout out to Frank. And he tested out, and I kind of got a little bit intrigued by this, using the Kafaru quilt and their Lost Park parka as basically the bag system. I'm all about dual purpose stuff, Braden as well. So I started kind of dabbling, carrying the puffy jacket with me, specifically for sitting on the ridges and glassing. But man, and able to use that with the quilt to complete a sleep system and go physically lighter. I mean, I got super jacked up about it when I first got everything together, because I put my tarp.
Your bulk size went down.
Yeah,
we never waited. We never waited.
We should have, but I had used a Kafaru Mega Tarp for my shelter, but I had my tarp, my stakes, my quilt, my pad, and my parka all in a stuff sack that was the same size as my original bag stuffed up. Like, packed down, like my bulk went down drastically. Now, like Braden said, we never weighed it, but to just bring down on the bulk, open up a couple cubic inches in my bag in order for me to pack extra food or whatever I may need, was absolutely awesome. And I tell you what, I was super impressed with the warmth. Previously I was always going back and forth on my temperature rating for my bag, because I could never quite narrow it down. I was either super hot or felt like I was gonna be frozen on the mountain and not come off. But dude, super warm, ran me perfect. And then when I climbed out of that quilt, dude, parka's already on. Yep. I mean, I'd slide on my hunting pants and I'm rocketing out of there.
Bust your chops a little bit here.
Go for it.
That system worked great until it ran into a bear.
But I could not control that. I could not control that.
No, and even on the flip side, I'm a little envious, because I also changed my sleep system up this year. And I went the opposite direction, okay? And I'm not old, I'm almost 40, I'm not 40 yet. But in my older age, I've realized how the pad that I've been running the last 3 or 4 years, almost 5 years now actually, killing my hips, killing my shoulders. So I got a new pad that it's like a dual chamber. It's like got the air that you blow in, plus some foam, right?
Okay.
So like it's the Cedar Summit, one of the.
It's just it's a packable sleep number. Let's just be real.
Hey, I tell you what.
What's your number?
From a comfort standpoint, that thing eliminated my problems with sleeping. I slept much better. However,
you're cold.
I also changed to a down bag that, in theory, you'd think, well, the down bag's going to be lighter, right?
Yeah.
Well, no, I went to a rectangle bag, because as much as I'm tossing and turning at night, in a mummy bag, I used to use a slick bag, and I love the Kafaru slick bag, but as I turn side to side, it ends up getting to where I'm restless and uncomfortable. Yeah. Went to that rectangular Feathered Friends bag. That was money, okay? My sleep system was awesome. However,
it's bigger.
It's way bigger. It was heavier overall. Yeah. And Braden will tell you, I was probably, I don't know. I know that I was carrying more weight than I should have. My knees told me after we got off that first trip on the mountain. But
well, you also have the cameras and everything else.
Yeah, and that's that variable that we try to capture some of our story memories. So you're paying for the penalty for that weight. But I need to continue to tweak my sleep system, because it's comfortable, but hiking that far in, that hard of a terrain, too much. I need to consider something like that.
I think both of you guys should at least I think both of you already have a
Well,
lost park.
I've always
We've ran.
I've
Yeah,
always
for a
I've run my parka for 4 years, and as a matter of fact, I usually sleep in it anyway and just leave my bag unzipped.
Sure.
I changed bags this year too. I went to the down route, and I loved it. I think I'm going to look at that quilt system for earlier season, the first couple weeks of season,
Okay.
and then bounce maybe back to the.
I gotta bust your chops now. I
down.
busted Bo's chops. I gotta bust your chops. So we shared a mega tarp for that first trip, right? Tried to skimp a little bit of weight.
Yeah.
And the mega tarp's great for 2 people, especially trying to go lightweight.
He was carrying
So
that too.
Braden, he's got a little extra hair, got a little extra insulation, right? He don't have a lot of fat on him, but he slept with a parka, with a beanie, in his down bag.
Every day, I love
And
it.
it didn't drop down to, I don't think it got to 45 degrees
No,
at
it wasn't
night.
cold.
I'd look over there, I'm in my underwear, and I'm halfway out of this down bag. I'm looking at Braden, and he's cuddled up. And he's bundled up to the nth degree. So I was wondering if he was breathing in there.
That was good, man. I just like, but I've always run that parka, and when you and Frank talked about that idea, I'm like, man, for early season, for the first couple weeks in a place like that, I think it's a killer system. And now, like I said, I went to the down bag this year. Warmth-wise, worked great. It got cold. Got down in mid-20s later in the season one night. Got a little cold, but everybody got cold. And I've always run the slick bag. Love the slick bag.
But what were we thinking though? That first trip, remember?
My whole fear, and I still, because I'm still a rookie with the down stuff, is water.
Yep.
The parka and the Kafaru slick bag, man, I could go into that thing soaking wet and come out in the morning and be all right, you know. This thing I was scared to death getting it wet, and I still, because I'm so new to the down game, that it was a whole new experience. Now the size, the packable size, the weight was definitely money. It was definitely benefited a lot, but there's something to be said about that synthetic and water.
And that's going back to, there's these things that we've talked about that, you go away from something, if you've learned a lesson from something, you haven't touched on it for so many years, and then all of a sudden it comes back. I used to run a down bag years ago, right? And it was an old school Cabela's lightweight down bag, and I love the thing. It was lightweight, it packed great. I got it wet a couple times, and I didn't want to use it anymore, And so when you brought it to my attention this year, because a little bit of condensation, because it was actually foggy, and we actually got a little bit of rain, and so I started getting panic and getting nervous too. So I'm putting my ground cloth over my bag to keep it.
Condensation was a huge deal to me this year because, and usually it's not. Condensation became a huge deal to me this year because I was so concerned about down and getting it wet and what it did, and that mental game. So it worked well, and I never had any issues. But I'm still learning how far you can push that moisture. Slick bag, never concerned. Not throw that thing out in the rain, goes laying it. You know what I mean? It's just. But you're paying a size and a little bit of weight penalty. So it's all about learning that. But that system there.
At first, honestly, the first day. I never recommend this, but literally the first day I hunted was the first day I tested it. I am not gonna lie. Okay, I was not prepared for that. I picked up the gear a little bit late, and I was gonna commit myself to trying it. Now, luckily for me, it worked out. Worst case scenario, I froze my butt off the first night, and I'd have to hike my butt all the way out. And I did bring my actual, my traditional sleep system with us. It was in the truck, just in case it didn't work out. But for me, man, I really think I'm gonna be sticking with the Lost Park Parka and the Kafaru quilt.
I do have a funny story for you though. You give me busting my chops about wearing that parka. You should have seen us. The last night we ended up sleeping by the truck, and then we were hunting another drainage. I'm like, I got my slick bag, I got my down bag. I'm stuffing the down bag in the slick bag and laying in that thing, and still have my parka on.
Man, I don't know how you sleep in that.
I slept like a baby, man.
Oh, I tell you what.
What's that? Waking up every 5 minutes crying? Or
and then another thing I did this year, which was not by intent, but it happens by stupidity. I hauled around I've got one of those ultra light cots from Thermarest, and I was just using them by the truck. I'm like, I'll just use this. We went up in the teepee with the group, and I was like, I'm not carrying a shelter. I'm gonna bring this. I wouldn't leave that thing if I'm doing like something where I'm not carrying a shelter, we're like doubling up. I'm bringing cop, man.
Really?
That thing was money.
Wow.
Really?
That thing was money.
So a couple other new things. Well, and I guess to bring you shot a nice pronghorn. You're the first one of the three of us to tag out on something this year, and you tried a new broadhead this year with that.
Yep. Shot him with that sever. I shot him with that sever, and it was devastated him. So that sever hit a cow and killed her in about 40 yards. Pretty impressed with how that broadhead performed in the 2 instances I saw.
Bo, you took a couple animals also so far.
Yep.
What broadhead were you using?
I started out, actually, I really wanted to commit myself to shooting the kudu point this year, that single bevel. We did a lot of testing, flew great, but
It did fly great. Most people that shot it
flew
great for everybody.
phenomenal. And I really wanted to commit myself to it, even through antelope season. But originally the plan antelope hunting was we were going to sit over water. And we actually got some rain out in the area that we were at. And then, so the water holes weren't very productive. By the time it dried out, the rancher had to move some cattle into some areas that we were going to have good opportunities on water holes. So I ended up changing my plans to spot and stalk, and I switched broadheads expecting for a slightly longer shot, even though the kudu points were flying great. So I ended up taking out the Grim Reaper Pro Series 1 3/8 inch cut, 100 grain over the top expandable. Harvested 2 animals with that head this year. Both died within 40 yards. Broadhead performed flawlessly. I've got absolutely no complaints. I was pretty impressed.
Yeah, I ended up shooting my 2 animals, the cow and the pronghorn, with the dead meats. I shot those dead meats all last year. They flew great. They did a good job. Something that I was leery about, and this is, I shot the injection arrows this year from Easton, which I like. I don't know that I'm a super huge fan of that smaller ferrule with the deep 6.
Still working on the component type
Yeah, the
thing.
component. It's just such a tiny,
But I went to the titanium outsert on that, and I heavied up my arrow on. I had 2 bows kind of ready to go, and my heavier bow, which was set about 77 pounds, ended up shooting a 532, 533 grain arrow. So it was the heaviest arrow I've shot, I think, in a long time. A very long time. And I tell you what, I also took and shot that cow that I shot. I hit her at 78 yards. That's the furthest I've taken an elk.
Sure.
Right? I usually like to shoot those elk about 50 in, right, if I can, if
do.
not closer. But
I would have preferred mine at 50 instead of 18.
Sure.
I might have smoked them then,
But I was able to put that dead meat through it, and same thing. I mean, both animals piled up within 50 or so yards from where I hit them. But so good luck with that. But I'm changing my build completely for the next 3 or 4 tags that I have.
Yeah,
So
right.
I've got
White
Kansas
So do I.
and
I got
Nebraska,
the
right?
set up.
Yep.
Well, I had kind of a complete, and this would be a completely different topic for another show or another episode, but I actually had a change of heart, so to speak, in my broadhead selection that I've normally gone with, that I've normally kind of directed people. I've had a change of heart in that, and I'm going to do something a little different.
But that's where, something that we try to focus on using is high-end equipment, and as equipment the best equipment we can, right?
Yeah.
And even when the customers come in the door, we try to speak truthfully from the experiences we've had to determine, hey, this broadhead, it typically flies great, it typically spins well, whatever the case is, this lends itself good to a lighter poundage bow. This, if you've got plenty of energy and momentum, you can shoot this, whatever. But we try to speak truthfully from it.
Yep.
And I also played with some new broadheads this year. I played with a couple different ones trying to get. My problem this year, in full transparency, was I couldn't get multiple broadheads to give me the same impact point.
Yeah.
So I had to scrap that kind of philosophy, and I know a lot of people like to do that, to where they'll have some fixed blades. If they get a closer shot, they'll throw a couple expandables in there if they want a longer shot, which is kind of counterintuitive from the energy loss standpoint.
Yeah.
But from a flight characteristic standpoint,
Makes
that's
sense at that point.
yeah, that's usually what I've liked to do as well. But again, I wasn't comfortable enough. They were flying good, but not great. So then at that point, I just went back to I'm shooting a ton of energy, momentum. I'm gonna put whatever down I put an arrow in if I hit in the vitals, and so I went with an expandable again all year. So, but there's definitely going to be some more discussion that we have down the line because we're still trying some new heads out.
Yeah, some new heads that aren't
even
quite
on the market
yet.
So we're playing with some new stuff, and we will definitely give you guys more feedback as those come out and as we get some more hunts in. So to close this one out, we've got some more whitetail hunts primarily. I guess the Nebraska, one of the Nebraska spots we have could potentially have some mule deer, right?
Yep.
So if you see one of us up with the mule deer picture, it's not that we're doing anything illegal. We're in a spot where it may give us some opportunities to still do some spot and stock on muleys in Nebraska. And I mean, what do you think, Bo? I mean, is you still going to run with status quo with all your equipment, or is there a certain bow you're looking to take out for those kind of tree stand, cold possible hunts?
Braden and I were talking about it earlier. I've got a couple other bows hanging out at the house that I might want to show a little love to and get them out in the field.
Let them breathe a little bit.
Let them breathe a little bit, yeah, or let them eat.
Let
if
them
you
eat.
want to say. Hopefully, let them eat. But I might. I'm still on the fence about it. I'm really happy with how my system actually worked out this year. Both animals I ended up harvesting were over 50-yard shots. I obviously wanted closer, and I expect with the whitetail hunts coming up that they will be closer shots. So I'm really confident, obviously, in the system working. But no, I've been dabbling around with the idea of possibly changing it up, grabbing another bow, and trying out some other broadheads. Like I said, I wanted to commit myself to those kudu points this year, and I think maybe I might set a bow up and really test drive that head on some whitetail.
Braden, where are you at with it? I know you were shooting the Hyperforce now, weren't you, down there?
Yep. So it's moved on to the Ultra, at the 80-pound Ultra. That was kind of my elk high country mule deer bow. That's kind of what it was set up for, shooting 490 grain arrow. And then I'm gonna bump down to 70-pound Hyperforce for more of that eastern deer, whitetail, tree stand, the shorter axle. And I'm shoot about a 430 grain arrow. I think I'm not 100% decided on that, but that bow's shooting really well right now with the 430 grain arrow. I think that's probably the setup I'm gonna go with. So
yeah, I'm gonna probably I was thinking to shoot same 70-pound bow, 72, 73-pound bow for whitetail, but that 77, 78-pound, I've got an Ultra on a 2-cam on the higher poundage bow, and even turning that bow down, that 2-cam is so much more efficient from a speed and energy standpoint.
Yeah, at your drawing.
At my drawing.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's hard because when I set the two bows up, one 3-cam Ultra, one 2-cam Ultra, very similar draw length and poundage, it's 10 feet per second-ish difference, 10 to 11 feet per second different. So I'm going to set up a thumper arrow again, probably close to 500 grain arrow on that 80-pound, the number 2-cam. I'm going to back it down to 73, 74 pounds because it's still kicking out a lot of speed.
I mean, it's tempting because I'm kind of in the same boat, except I've got that but it's tempting, But for me, I want that shorter axle to axle on the tree stand. And actually, what I've learned this year in my shooting, it's another topic we can get into though, is I think I fit a 32-inch axle-to-axle bow better. I think I just shoot it better. It feels better. It fits
String
better.
angle, maybe.
String angle, maybe my body positioning compared to that 35-inch or that 34-inch longer axle-to-axle, which I thought would be, I don't shoot it as well as I shoot that 32-inch.
Well, it'll be exciting to see how the rest of the hunts kind of close out, and the next episode we're gonna get a lot more into kind of forecasting into 2019 and some of the seminars and some of the coaching stuff, the Alpha Challenge that were some additions and some new things to be looking for. So appreciate you guys checking out this next episode and topic on the Alpha Bowhunting channel here. We're gonna try to keep it to the point. So thanks again for checking it out, and we'll see you guys in the next one.